So the NFL has proposed a possible rule change because of the low amount of onside kicks last year. I think there were only 4 recovered in the entire league. That teams, instead of going for onside kicks now, could take a 4th and 15 from their own 25-yard line, and they could do it 2 different times in a game, and actually any time in a game, which is very interesting to me. Not just the third quarter or the fourth quarter. They could do it any time in the game they want to. So it's an interesting substitution. You said it all the time. They're trying to eliminate kickoffs a lot of the time. They're trying to eliminate as much more special teams
because
contact.
of CTE.
Right. So maybe this is the next step for it. But again, that is the idea. 4th and 15 from their own 25-yard line, and they could try to start up another 75-yard drive after just scoring.
I don't like this rule. I really don't. I understand the NFL is trying to implement different rules where it's going to make the game a little bit more fun or easier to watch. This doesn't help the game. I'm sorry. If you're going to take away onside kicking, you might as well take away kick returns or punt returns and just completely take it away. And I've said this over and over again. I think it will help out as far as the concussion situations. If you look at, I think they said 62 or 63% of the concussion situations that happen are from kick returns and punt returns. So if you want to take that away and you want to implement a no rule, just take it away completely. Now, I know it doesn't help teams. It doesn't help players for getting drafted because special teams is a part of the game. But also, you can keep your own players. You can keep your superstar players. If you decide to take that away, yes, does it hurt for bringing in special team guys? Absolutely does. But it also helps the fact that you can sign a guy like Jamal Adams because you're going to have enough money to pay Jamal Adams because of the salary cap. Or with the Jets over the last couple of years, Muhammad Wilkerson, you had to overpay Muhammad Wilkerson to keep Muhammad Wilkerson, and Muhammad Wilkerson did absolutely nothing for the New York Jets the time that he was there after his first contract. So again, does this help the NFL? I don't know. I know the NFL is trying to figure out different ways to speed up the game or make the game more interesting to watch. Like I said, I just don't see it being more interesting to watch because of implementing new rules that they think is going to help the game.
Right. And I also think, too, part of winning in football is earning your possessions back. And I think you're giving an offense that was just on the field and just scored, you're giving them basically a free gift to get back on the field, which could tire out a defense unnecessarily kind of thing. They should have to earn their possession back, and that involves recovering an onside kick. Now, if you want to make it easier, maybe change the kickoff rule, that would be a little different. Because obviously they changed it last year where they can't get a running start, which, okay, is understandable. But again, maybe you change it where if you are doing an onside kick, maybe you do get a running start. But you have to tell everyone beforehand, tell the referees who's eligible for a running start. I don't think doing it this way really benefits because, one, you're taking away the special teams element, part of the strategy of the game. And two, I don't think you should be able to manipulate a tired defense by letting him go on the field again as an offensive strategy. So I don't think from that standpoint you're really earning that possession back. If your defense goes 3 and out and gets the stop they need to, gets the key stop, yes, you deserve to get the ball back. But from a strategy standpoint, it just doesn't make sense to me. And again, I don't think it's going to be overly used. So I don't know if they would implement it, if it would be that big of a deal because coaches are not going to use it stupidly. They're not going to say, all right, we're down by 7 in the third quarter. Let's do this again, because if you miss, they're getting the ball at their 25-yard line, essentially in the red zone. So I don't think a lot of players would do it. I don't like it, though, for the element of you can't just be able to tire out a defense like that and then just have them put back on the field just as an instant possession type thing.
I understand that the NFL and Roger Goodell have their way of doing things. And maybe rule changes are going, in their eyes, is going to help the game. I disagree. Now, if you're going to take away special teams, take it away completely. That's what I'm going to say. If punt returns and kick returns are causing more problems than it's helping the game, then stop trying to add new rules or add new stories to the NFL where people are going to argue, look at the new rule that they brought in with the Saints, with the Saints situation.
The pass interference challenge play.
The challenge plays. And now they're trying to take it away. Now the NFL is trying to take away the one thing they brought to the game a year ago. So obviously didn't work, and maybe it's slowing the game down, and I understand that they want the game to be a little bit more faster, but again, it affected the Saints for going to the Super Bowl against the Rams, and the Rams went to the Super Bowl and completely destroyed and torched by the New England Patriots, and maybe it would have been a better Super Bowl if the Saints were there.
Oh, I agree.
But nevertheless, it doesn't help us right now. And the fact is, the NFL, who I think are a bunch of morons, and I've said this over and over again. I think out of all the organization, yes, they're a multi-billion-dollar organization, and they're very well respected, not only for endorsements and sponsorships because they are the biggest sport in the world besides soccer or European football. But to me, they've been a complete disgrace to not only their players, the former players, and really what they're trying to implement. How about the new rule that they're trying to do with the black coaches, bringing in more African American coaches, and if you bring in an African American coach, you will get more draft picks. So how does that help, or how does that implement a game that has been back and forth with not only with the rules, but trying to add and subtract things that don't make any sense for the game?
Yeah, either way, it's over strategizing to where you're changing the rules from what these guys grew up playing too. So a lot of these kickers that practice onside kicks, a lot of these special teams gunners, and even top receivers they put on these hands team, they call it, kind of thing. They practice this kind of thing. So to take it away from the game now, you're only discrediting certain teams and benefiting others. And again, that's player development. That's who you are. But at the same time, you're really also discrediting another part of the game, and you're also going to have a lot of players lose jobs because of this too, that were good special teams players or even Pro Bowl special teams players, like a Matthew Slater.
To me, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not going to keep rehashing myself of what the NFL should or should not do, because I am not an owner of an organization. Plus, I'm not Roger Goodell. I would like to be Roger Goodell because I'd love to make $45 million a year doing absolutely nothing and building sponsorships and advertisements through a company that's a multi-billion-dollar company anyways, and I could have found ways of doing that. I'm trying to find ways with our network as we speak, but it's completely different from using a sport where there's full contact and you have these high-power athletes, 350-pound linemen that can run a 5'1". I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous, these athletes, what they are today and what they've transitioned and really changed to over the years. So I envy what the NFL has done for the organization, bringing in sponsorships and advertisements. I don't envy how they treat the players, how they treat the product in a way where the fans would be more excited to watch it, or maybe just strive to change the rules to make it better for them. I disagree what the NFL is trying to do. I think the NFL needs to figure out ways to make the game better, not worse.
Yeah, it's too weird with a lot of these rule changes they're trying to do, and again, just trying to overreact and then overreact again. We were talking about the pass interference thing earlier. You tried it for 1 year and it progressively got better. The coaches got used to it, the strategy of it. The players got used to it in a sense where I think later in the season there was less calls as a whole. And from the standpoint of coaching strategy, they know how to use the challenges and they know how to use the timeouts and what the referees are looking for. They're not going to call it if it's definitive. Coaches got used to that, and they started to strengthen it up on it. Now, I don't think this rule is going to be like that because it's very situation dependent too, where there's just going to be so many different instances where they would have needed an onside kick or just get the offense back on the field. So I don't see that really being a benefit where they'll get used to it anyway. So I don't really like it in terms of just the over strategy of it and just changing it so much from what the game was. These guys grew up a different way.
Absolutely unique, and the NFL needs to stop trying to change rules. It just doesn't make any sense. And if you want to change the rule completely, get rid of kickoffs, get rid of punt returning, and you would solve all the problems with the CTE, probably most of the problems with the CTE. If that's what you want to do and that's what you're trying to implement into the game to make it faster and make it better, then you do that. Don't add rules that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm. And again, the instant possession thing, football's not supposed to be that way. You're supposed to earn your possessions back. What if you're winning, too, and you haven't used it yet? Up 7, you haven't used it yet, and you say, all right, I'm just going to take the ball back. That shouldn't happen. You should have to earn your possessions back, get the key defensive stops. If you're in a close game and you just take the lead and score, you shouldn't be able to get the ball back. One of the things that broke today was the NHL getting into their new playoff format has been announced, where they are going with a 24-team playoff format this year to obviously compensate for the hiatus that's going on for the last 2 months. And it would likely start in early or mid-July, and players would start congregating in 2 different cities.
Congregating?
Yes, in
Great
2
word.
different cities, one for the Western Conference, one for the Eastern Conference, and at a certain point in June. The host cities there's a certain list of, I think, 8 different cities that are eligible: Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Vegas. LA, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver. They're going to pick eventually at some point. And the structure is going to be the top 4 in each conference get a bye. So in the East, it's the Bruins, Lightning, Capitals, and Flyers. In the West, it is the Blues, Avalanche, Golden Knights, and the Dallas Stars. So they would all get byes. 5 through 12 play 5-game series to advance. So 5 plays 12, 6 plays 11, etc. And then they would just play it out like normal, like the normal NHL playoffs after that. So
Well, 5-game series. That's what they said.
5-game qualifying series for the 5 through 12 seeds in each conference. So the Penguins, Hurricanes, Islanders, Leafs,
Rangers,
Blue Jackets, Panthers, Rangers, Canadiens in the East. And in the West, 5 through 12 is the Oilers, the Predators, Canucks, Flames, Jets, Wild, Coyotes, and Blackhawks. And also they said in terms of the draft lottery, any team that loses in the first round in that qualifying round can be eligible for the draft lottery like it would normally be if they were to miss the playoffs. Yep. Which is that end of it I found crazy. Think about a team like the Penguins and the Predators that already have a lot of talent. If they somehow get shocked in the first round, they could get a top pick.
It's crazy. I disagree on how the NHL are trying to do this and relinquish the season that they've practically lost the last 15, 16 games. But it does get the Islanders and the Rangers into the playoffs, and it's anybody's ball game, it's anybody's hockey game. If you get into the playoffs, you squeak in. And in a 5-game series, 3 games that you have to win. Both teams have an opportunity to move along in the playoffs, especially with the talent of the team, and being that there is such a layoff of the season, it gives the opportunity of these teams to really get healthy. I mean, Pellick was out for the season with a torn Achilles.
Right.
He might be eligible to play. I don't know if he is eligible to play or if he's going to play because he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works with the season-ending IR.
Yeah,
things.
I don't know if he'll be able to come back, but it also gives the Islanders an opportunity, and the Rangers, and some of these teams that make the playoffs, an opportunity to bring some of their young players up from the AHL.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see how this is going to work moving forward, and I do believe there will be a playoff for the NHL as well as the NBA, and I do believe there'll be an MLB season. So, and there's definitely going to be a football season.
Yeah,
there's not even a question.
It's interesting because I'm surprised they did that many teams the way it was, because 24 is almost half the league. There's only 7 teams that missed the playoffs in this instance, so that surprised me. A team like the Canadiens, which is rebuilding and very bad, they now get a chance to play in the playoffs against the Penguins, who were one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. So that end of it was very strange to me, and like we were saying earlier, the draft lottery thing was very strange, where you could see a Nashville Predators team that's one of the most talented in the league get a top pick if they lose. It's very weird to me. The other thing to look at too is, being it's in July, how will the ice surfaces be?
That's true.
And how's that going to affect it? And that can make it more beneficial.
Depending where it is.
Yeah, and that's why I think
they're going to have the games.
I think I think it is going to end up either in Canada or in Minnesota, because I think they have to do it that way, being it's in the summer. If they tried to push it to the fall maybe, and then maybe delayed the next season kind of thing, and then they spread it out to some of the American cities that we listed, then it would be a different instance. But I feel like maybe the East definitely has to be Toronto, and the West either is in Minnesota or in Edmonton, just because of the ice surfaces. I really don't think you could do it in any other way. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of slippery games and a lot of sloppy play in the playoffs, which, again, it's crazy in itself to begin with, the NHL playoffs, but it just make it sloppier. It's
going to be really, really interesting how the NHL is going to implement this and how they're going to move forward with this. But Gary Bettman, as much as I can't stand the man, I don't hate him as much as I hate Roger Goodell. So I think Gary has been very interesting when it comes to the rules and changing and making the game a little bit more faster. So I'm sure he'll figure this out and make this work. And nobody can argue that the NHL playoffs is the best playoff for all the professional sports. So it will make it really more interesting when you have 12 teams from the East and 12 teams for the West making the playoffs, and it's anybody's hockey game. It really is.
All right. Carl in the comments is saying the ice doesn't matter. Yeah, in the summer it will. We're not starting it now. We're starting it in July, when it's going to be humid in a lot of those southern climates. So the fact that Vegas, a city like Vegas, was in the running is surprising. You have to be able to keep the ice surfaces so it doesn't get slushy and wet, especially in a skating speed league that we have now. So the ice will end up mattering for that kind of instance. That's just why I think you're going to see mainly, I think, Edmonton, Toronto, or Minnesota, maybe Chicago, but I think they're going to try to err on the side of the Canadian teams for sure, in Minnesota, which is practically Canada, America.